Hey everyone, welcome back to the Good Doctor's coverage of Hispanic Heritage Month art pieces we think you should engage with. We're not concise title people. Anyway, I'm Dr. Kristen.
I'm Dr. Erin.
And we watched possibly the world's most perfect movie this week.
You guys.
Entitled Coco.
And if you saw our review last week for John Leguizamo's Latin History for Morons, you'll know I was shocked to consider the possibility that this was an emotionally moving and quite possibly sad film. And reader, I sobbed. In the best sense. In the best sense.
I felt so bad bursting that bubble, but I was like, child, it's about the Day of the Dead.
But it was done, like, even the sad parts in it, which I didn't really find it sad so much as moving.
Yeah, I don't know if people thought of it as sad. I think they thought of it as very, like, the same way that we kind of feel about Inside Out, because we felt very seen in Inside Out. And so it was like this warm kind of feeling of seeing yourself on screen in a really intimate way.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like most people identified with that, even if they were or were not Latinx. Like, it just felt, because it's so much about family and memory and legacy and
oh my God,
who are you versus who your family wants to be, and how do we negotiate those things, and remembering, and like, and this came out like right after Hamilton like is like talking to an entire generation about remembering people, and so we were primed to remember.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, for me, like, the themes were deeply universal for me and powerful for me in terms of remembrance and the power of telling stories and photographs and the relationships that you build with your family and your dreams and like all of the stuff that came out of it. I was just like, every time it hit one of those buttons for me, I was just like, oh, and it was a little warm hug of a movie.
And it's a great example of something that is very specific becomes very universal.
Yeah.
If they weren't trying to tell every single story about ancestors. They were trying to tell this one that has very specific traditions, and the way that the kind of English, Spanish, Spanglish Miguel moved through all those languages that, this is my understanding is that like this particular, representation of Dia de los Muertos is very, very Mexican. That was a lot of Oaxacan art, for instance, and the Oaxacan death masks and kind of how that all looks. But as we read critics from other heritages, it resonated with them as well. Like, for instance, we'll link this in the show notes, but on the website Armazcala, nope, I'm mispronouncing that, so we will just link it. A critic named Vanessa Arazo says, as a Mexican Salvadorian American who grew up on a steady diet of Hollywood Anglo films and the Hispanic Hollywood 80s, like La Bamba and Stand and Deliver, there may never be a more important production than Pixar's Coco.
Mm.
Its blissful hug of acceptance in a time where the very existence of Latinos in this country is criminalized was a breath of fresh air, just like a freshly made tamale on Christmas Eve or a loud mariachi song waking you up on a Sunday morning. Coco feels like home.
Yeah. And like, I can totally see that. And, obviously representation and the importance of representation for marginalized and erased groups in U.S. history is like our strongest motivating factor for why we do these Heritage and History Month explorations. And so from that perspective, watching it, I was just like, it was beautiful to see that. When I think about like what I grew up on was like, Steve Martin in Three Amigos kind of parodying mariachi bands and, the cartoon versions of Mexican Americans and Latinx people in this country. And so just knowing that this was made, and you could just tell it was made from a place of love. Like, you could just feel it from like word one, from the opening credits on the flags that was so beautifully Pixar. And I was just like, from that moment, I was like, I'm going to love this movie. I know this.
Yeah. And you could tell whoever wrote Miguel, like, was Miguel growing up. Like,
yeah.
Like, it was just so, and the voice acting was perfect.
Yeah.
Benjamin Bratt has the perfect voice for a villain. Like, he
Yes.
really does. Like,
Ernesto de la Cruz.
Ernesto de la Cruz.
And
And
every
if you
time they
don't
said
know that, if you don't figure out that he's the villain, you've never seen a Pixar movie, so we're really not spoiling anything for you.
yeah, this is, I mean, if you're literally watching our YouTube review of a movie that came out 3 years ago and upset about spoilers, sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, we cannot help you.
Yeah, and our favorite Jamie Camel from
I think it's Jaime. I think he pronounces it Jaime.
It is Jaime, you're right. From Jane the Virgin. And I just like wrote down Rogelio de la Vega.
Rogelio de la Vega!
Rogelio de la Vega was the voice actor for Papa, which was great. And Gael Garcia Bernal.
Yeah, I did not recognize his voice. I had to look him up because I think the only thing I've seen him in is the Motorcycle Diaries, I'm realizing now.
Yeah, he's amazing though. I love him. I've seen him in a couple of other things, but I was so excited when I saw that he was in the cast. I was like, yes.
And boy can sing.
Yes, he can. Yes, he can. Which I think he did in something else. I can't remember what it was. But yeah, I mean, it was brilliantly cast, and imagine casting people of Hispanic heritage to play Hispanic people in a movie made by Hispanic people for Hispanic people. What?
It was amazing. One of the things that I love too, just like a small little moment, is like I've spent a little bit of time in Mexico. And the way that they just drew all the houses was really Mexican. Like, it was like, if you've only been to Cancun, you may or Cozumel, and you've not really traveled off the beaten paths, like, that is what Mexico and a lot of parts of Mexico look like. And it's just felt very, I mean, it's like Arendelle looks like Norway in a lot of ways, without any modern, like, it looks like historical Norway.
Right.
Coco looks like modern Mexico. And it was, if you just take away everyone's cell phones, it wasn't foreign. And I loved it. I'm certainly going to think on Dia de los Muertos this year, Dia de los Muertos, of putting up pictures of my relatives and remembering them in a way that I haven't before. My tradition is certainly not to have photos of ancestors. That is not something the Danes nor the Scots nor the American mutt that I am do. But it might be a really fun way to introduce the idea of legacy to my niece someday, and just kind of explain that this is a Mexican tradition, and there's a lot that we can learn from other cultures and how they interact with their ancestors. And I could waffle about this forever. I loved every single second. I will rewatch it. I don't rewatch movies all that often. I will rewatch this one.
I will 100% rewatch Coco probably several times over the next coming months as the days get shorter and we get nearer and nearer to the election. I think I'm just going to be like, you know what today is? Today's Coco Day.
Yeah, I think when we finally see each other again, we'll watch it and cry together.
Probably, yes. Yeah, and for me, I was talking to my mom about it last night because heritage is a really big part of the way our family remembers, and our particularly our Irish heritage. But that has become even more expansive and emotional for my mom and I in the last 8 years, as we learned a lot about where we came from in Ireland and met a lot of our living relatives that we didn't know we had. And built this new connection to the land that my great-grandparents came from. And so the importance of land and memory and storytelling, which is a huge part of Irish culture as well. And we have all these new photographs that we didn't have of family members. And we've always had pictures in my house growing up of my grandparents and their siblings and everything. But to have this new infusion of ancestors and connection to land and memory and stories, I was just like, it was amazing to watch this movie and feel like it was made for me, even though it totally wasn't, which is, I think, the beauty of being able to tell stories this authentic.
Yeah, we all can be seen, even while knowing it does not represent us. we
Yeah.
can still all feel seen, which is a true mark of an excellent storyteller.
Yeah, and shows you just the, you know, the authenticity of the human experience, that when you get down to the bare bones, that we are all human beings. No matter where you are in the world, we have similar ideas and experiences and stories to tell, and everyone deserves the chance to tell them. So
yeah, please, I would like 97 more movies about documentary or Pixar. I leave this up to Hollywood, about other ancestor traditions around the world. I'm now curious.
Yeah, we got Moana, we got Coco. Let's just keep going, kids. There's lots of stories to tell.
Lots and lots of stories to tell, and lots of soundtracks to listen to. So,
and if Lin-Manuel Miranda wants to be involved in all of them, we will not complain. Although
or Kristen Lopez.
Yes.
Who is like my other favorite. Her and her husband wrote Frozen and a couple songs for this as well. And I never remember her husband's name because I'm sure he's lovely, but we share a name. So her name is my name and it's a whole thing. But they wrote Avenue Q too. And yeah, like they're great. She's an incredible incredible songwriter. So anytime they want to do that, that would be fine. We're just giving permission.
Yes. If anybody cares, and is watching our YouTube channel, we have some requests.
We do. But more than anything, we just request more and more authentic content for middle-class white American stories. I'd like different stories.
I've seen myself way too much.
I you know, unless you want to do some plus size heroines falling in love, then that's fine. I still haven't seen that a whole lot.
Hey, I mean, while we're making a list of things we don't see.
Yeah, but you know, like I don't need another Gossip Girl. I'm solid. So, as delightful as that was, and it did give the world Sebastian Stan, for which I am thankful. And Aaron Tveit, actually, that's where I fell in love with both of them.
Yes, that is true. I was just checking what we're covering next week because I couldn't remember the full title of it.
Fine. I was like vamping, so.
So that is what we have for Coco. We found it on Disney Plus. Find it wherever you can and watch it. You will not regret it. And next week we'll be back for our last Hispanic Heritage Month film, talking about one that neither of us have seen. It is a documentary on Netflix called To Be a Miss, and that is about the use and proponents of pageants in South America. I believe specifically Colombia and Venezuela, but we'll find out when we watch it, and we'll let you know. But it's going to be a really interesting cultural exploration, I hope.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
So we'll see you guys next week for that.
Bye.
Bye.